Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This guy over here is Tim, and welcome back to Second Legacy. As you guys know, this is a brand new channel between Tim over there from Military Arms Channel and me over here, Braden from Langley Outdoors Academy. And this is something that we are extremely passionate about, and thank you so much for stopping by. Now, if you liked what content, please help us build that channel. Subscribe, like the video, and make sure you share this out because we've got some stuff you've got to see today, and I am excited to bring this to you. So what we're going to talk about, kind of at a high level, we've got some clips of people in Congress actually doing what we sent them there to do. And this is something I'm excited to bring into the fold. I'm going to throw it over to Tim real quick, set it up from your perspective, and we are going to get into it.
Absolutely. So what we're talking about today, guys, is the brace rule. And what we've been saying all along is that basically the ATF and other bureaucracies are acting as if they are Congress themselves. They're taking rules and making them into laws. But there are two distinctions there. A rule is not a law and a law is not a rule. Only Congress can pass laws. Rules are interpretations of those laws. Now, there's this little magical thing called Chevron deference that's been given to these agencies, which allows them to fill in. This was the intention, to fill in ambiguities, because no law can address every possible concern that can come up over the years after its implementation. So it was supposed to fall to these bureaucracies to fairly interpret the law as intended by the lawmakers when they passed it. But Chevron deference has gotten grossly out of hand, and now these agencies just basically make up new laws claiming deference and that it's within their realm of jurisdiction, and it simply isn't. And to that point, we have some representatives on the House floor pushing back on this brace rule, which is a law, because it not only changes what the actual law is, this interpretation, if you will, but it also assigns criminal penalty. Now, this is another thing that's reserved for Congress. These bureaucracies don't get to make up new laws and then assign criminal penalties, i.e., if you don't register your brace pistol on the NFA, you go to prison for 10 years and pay a $250,000 fine. So to that point, let's go to clip number one, Mr. Producer, and let's hear what Boebert has to say about this.
And Mr. Clyde, for organizing this special order. Thank you so much for highlighting what's going on here. Mr. Speaker, the ATF's new pistol brace rule violates the separations of powers. Bureaucrats don't create laws. Congress does. This rule functions like a law that Congress never passed.
I think that is so powerful. That is so. One of the reasons that Tim and I came together in this collaborative channel, guys, is to inspire us to actually make moves that we can claim our rights back that have been taken. They have been infringed, but we can do it step by step by step. And I know that a lot of the times there's almost this desire to just do a rubber band effect and whip it right back to the norms. But this is going to be incremental. And the step-by-step process is what you're witnessing right here. Lauren Boebert just came out and said some very important things. Unelected bureaucrats, referencing what Tim was saying about Chevron deference and interpreting new laws, whole cloth from written laws outside of their jurisdiction, but also the separations of powers. This is why Jim Jordan, in another letter that he sent to the ATF, saying you're usurping the power of Congress. Take this for what it is. This is incredible to hear this on the House floor, and we got more clips coming. I mean, Tim, what do you think? Am I on point there?
Absolutely. It absolutely does violate the separation of powers. It does an end run around the power of Congress, and these agencies most definitely have to be reined in. And this is something that the Supreme Court and the courts in general have failed to address head on. The closest we came to this was with the recent ruling with the EPA. I know you've talked about it on your show before.
Oh, yeah.
So really, the courts have been reluctant to tackle this whole issue of Chevron deference because keep in mind, if the courts said tomorrow, if the SCOTUS said tomorrow, you know what, Chevron deference, we're doing away with it. Any type of serious reinterpretation of law has to go back to Congress. That could unravel this entire bureaucracy that literally our country has been built around, and not intentionally so, not by our founders anyway. And so I think they're a little bit reluctant to do that because it could undo generations of these arbitrary rule decisions. And I think they're a little bit reluctant to do that, but the right decision would be to do exactly that and put the power of lawmaking back in the hands of the elected officials and not in the hands of these lifelong bureaucrats that aren't elected and have no accountability to the voters. So another great advocate for the Second Amendment is Thomas Massie. I love Thomas Massie. And he had also some choice words to share with his fellow House members. And if you could roll clip number 2 for us, Mr. Producer, we can listen to what Mr. Massie had to say.
I want to thank Mr. Clyde from Georgia for organizing this time on the floor. I think it's so important. We're talking about the brace ruling from the ATF. A brace is a firearm accessory for disabled individuals. But I'm sure Biden went to his attorney general and to the ATF and said, you know what, I hate guns. How can I take millions of them off the street without regard for if they're legally owned? And how can I do it without going to Congress? Because I really don't want to do that. Now, keep in mind, this is administrative law. Right. Our founders were against this type of thing because they knew that the laws shouldn't change with each administration. When Democrats controlled both chambers of Congress and the White House, they didn't pass this legislation. This ATF rule says that gun owners have 120.
Legitimately, I don't think that he could have said that better. Honestly, what we're talking about here is exactly what he said. When the Biden administration, keep in mind, this was 2 years ago. I know it's been a party every day since, but for the last 2 years, Biden has tried through multiple ways to get gun control through Congress, and he's hit a brick wall every single time. Just to give a small high-level recap, H.R. 8, H.R. 1446. They passed the House, didn't get anywhere in the Senate. What was the solution? Overrun the filibuster, get rid of it. Oh, Manchin and Sinema, they're both evil. Well, that failed. Then after that, quickly after it became 1808. That's the assault weapons ban of 2022. Again, another failure in Congress. Did not even get brought up for a vote in the Senate when the Democrats controlled all 3 houses. Now, or all 3 centers of power. This is the important piece. They will never come out and tell you, well, we're trying to do this, and if we can't, we're going to try and end run around through executive bureaucracies. But that's what's occurring. When you're hitting these brick walls that Congress is installed to do, sometimes they hold you up, sometimes they go with you. That's it's accountable to the voters. But when you get into this executive bureaucracy where you do end runs around Congress to say, well, yeah, in this definition, we can't do what we want to do. But if we just change that definition and now it's readily accessible per the ATF, well, now it's something different and now we can enforce it. So I guess we'll have to wait in 4 years when we hear another Supreme Court decision. That's really what we're dealing with. And I mean, Tim, you and I talk about it all the time. Imagine a different right. Imagine the First Amendment. What would be the uproar and the fury if executive bureaucracies were saying, well, you can't really do that. In fact, just came to mind. Remember the whole CDC thing where you can't collect rent? Remember that one?
Yeah.
Just saying.
That's just it. Yeah, you can't have these agencies running amok like this. And he is absolutely right. The founders were very much against just that. They wanted to make sure that the people had a voice in their government. That's what a republic is. A republic is that you elect somebody to represent you in D.C. because you can't be there yourself. That's the difference between democracy, which we are not, and a republic. And in a republic, our elected officials are accountable to us. If they don't do as we ask of them, the majority of us can then vote them out, vote somebody else in that will then take our concerns to DC and do things that we, the people, want done. These bureaucracies, they just hire these people willy-nilly. And the worst part of it is they're generally politicized. So agencies like the ATF has been politicized because the director of the ATF is a political appointee. And so when you have a new administration come in, which is what Thomas Massie was talking about, and Biden's tried executive orders. He's tried getting bills pushed through the House and the Senate, and he's failed on every front. And so now he has literally gone to the ATF, and this will come out in the hearings. I am confident of that because I know in my heart this is what's happened. Biden's administration went to the ATF and said, we're getting nowhere with this gun control. I need a win for my constituents, for the people that support me and my radical agenda. I can't get it done through the proper channels. You, ATF director, make these things go away so I can go out in 2024 and claim victory and do a victory lap. Absolutely. And so you have a bureaucrat that has been instructed by a politician to go against the will of the people, to do what that politician, in this case Joe Biden, what he wants done for his own political gain. And he's doing it in such a way that is in gross violation of the Constitution.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, honestly, I think that's where the weakness lies, because when you take shortcuts and when you take end runs, it's only a matter of time before you start to get these things to come out, and there will be a blowback. Now, depending on the level, is all about the circumstances of the time. But you have the Republicans who just got authorized a weaponization of government against Americans subcommittee chaired by Jim Jordan and a majority of Republicans. I guarantee you the DOJ and the ATF are going to be brought up in that. In fact, in this whole clip from Lauren Boebert, she even mentions that the ATF is going to be dragged in front of that committee. So, I mean, we are talking about incremental progress, but that's the way it's got to be. You get the right people in the right places, and this will grow. So do not give up. Be encouraged. But we got one more clip for you. So, Mr. Producer, could you play Representative Van Drew clip number 3, please?
Today, I stood on this floor fighting to protect Americans' First Amendment rights. Today, I'm standing here fighting to protect Americans' Second Amendment rights. God help our Constitution. Congress has afforded far too much deference to unelected D.C. bureaucrats in federal agencies. And it is time, with our majority, to rein in that extreme power.
Yeah, there you have it. I mean,
Yeah.
he just reiterated everything that we were just saying, right? He touches upon the issue of deference. And it's time that these agencies are reined in. And we've had some success, like I mentioned earlier, what you've talked about on your show previously with the decision against the EPA. The Supreme Court said, hey, look, you're way overreaching your bounds here. So this needs to stop. Now, in an ideal world, that would then filter out to all the other agencies, and they would have to abide by that Supreme Court decision. Sadly, many of these agencies just run amok, and they refuse to send people to, if Congress calls a hearing, they may refuse to show up, even if they're subpoenaed. They do all sorts of things they can do to obstruct how government is supposed to work. And this is what he's talking about. We need to rein this in, and we need to put a stop to it. And honestly, the only way we're going to do that is through Congress. So we have to be diligent about this. We can accomplish this. We can get deference taken care of. But we have to be politically active, and when the time is right, we must strike. And sadly, I was really upset in 2016 when all the promises were made in the lead up to the 2016 election, and you had the Republicans controlling the White House, the House, and the Senate. We got nothing done for gun owners. And I hope our representatives are listening, and we need to make them listen. We need to make that noise now, so when 2024 rolls around, it's on top of mind that we got to take care of our gun owners because they're not happy about this, and we need to do something. And I think that is our most powerful bet, if you will, in what we can do to kind of thwart this and turn this ship around.
Oh, I could not agree more completely. In fact, you're already starting to see little signs of this. Like, for example, we've even covered when you had, oh my gosh, I cannot remember his name right now. The representative who put forward the ATF bill, Crenshaw. When Crenshaw put forward his bill that basically would give you a request for a reapproval, or I can't remember the right terms for it, but essentially you could make a request to say get a reconsideration. That's because of pressure we were putting on him. That's not because he just decided to do it. You've got Matt Gaetz putting out the Abolishing the ATF Act. You've got all sorts of candidates putting out things. Now, that's a different conversation. We've touched on it. But my point is there's momentum. And if you don't think that the people on the other side of the aisle aren't just biding their time, listen to what a contrast point for Chris Murphy. Mr. Producer, this is number 4. This will blow your mind.
Support. I would love to pass an assault weapons ban. That's unlikely with Republicans in charge of the House of Representatives, but we could make some progress. We could raise the age to purchase an assault weapon to 21. We could require you to get a background check, at least before you buy one of these military-style weapons. There's a litany of things that are possible this year, and I just think the American public is fed up with the NRA, the gun lobby, owning Washington. They demand action. That's why we got something done last year, and that's why I have confidence we can get something done this year.
Wow. I mean, here he is out there saying the quiet part out loud. How many times have we heard, and I see this on my tweets and things like that when anti-gunners come in, they're like, quit being paranoid. Nobody's coming for your precious guns. Like, what world do you live in? They've been saying it openly for generations. That's precisely what they want to do. We played a clip of Dianne Feinstein from the 90s where she said it. If she had the vote, she would just round them up. And what is this obsession with the phrase military type weapon? What isn't a military type weapon? A cap and ball revolver, a flintlock rifle, muzzle loaders,
arquebus,
a Bowie knife? That's firearms, by their very nature, are used for defensive purposes. That's why we, the people, have them. It's for self-defense, self-preservation, to preserve our way of life, our freedoms. That's what they're for. They're tools for that purpose. That's what they've always been. So this notion of military type weapons, any weapon can be used as a military type weapon. Look at the Japanese. They used farming implements to make military type weapons. So the phrasing that they use, it's meant to scare people, just like the assault weapons ban, assault weapon. It's a made up phrase. There's no such thing as an assault weapon. But these are all phrases that go to these little think tanks and these little test groups, and they say, what do you think of this? Does this scare you? Does this get, are they getting the desired result that they want by coming up with this phrasing? And that's precisely what it is. And the worst part of this is we see people within our own community start to say these things themselves. How many times have you heard somebody say the phrase gun violence? There's no such thing as gun violence. A gun is an inanimate object. It's incapable of violence. So again, we have to stop using a phrasing. We have to stop buying into the notion that these things are military type weapons. And what he's trying to say here is he wants to ban anything that loads itself. It's 2023, folks. A gun loading itself isn't rocket surgery. I mean, that's a pretty simple concept. I mean, where he would like to take us back to is muzzle loaders until he can then get enough votes to take those away as well.
Right. Well, it all comes down to exactly what you said. It's branding, it's phrasing. And if you look at everything throughout the history, at least the modern history, let's go to the 20th century alone, the exact same verbiage, the exact same playbooks. It's always for the safety of the overall public group. Don't worry, you don't need those things because you have an all-powerful government that will take care of you. The only part they leave out in these very consistent themes over 100 years is the fact that 100 million people died because of those decisions. The original point of our Second Amendment was we are preserving freedom. The Revolutionary War was officially popped off when the British said, you know what, you guys really don't need guns because we've got you. That was like the final straw. And then we said, nah, I don't think so, boo. And then they said, yeah. And then we threw some tea in a harbor. We had a 6-year party and now we're free. I mean, it's an oversimplification, but the point is these are meant to be items to preserve freedom. And when the lack of these items exist, very bad things happen.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. And I think on that note, we'll end today's stream. I really want to thank you guys for joining the Second Legacy. If you do take a moment there to hit the like, share, and subscribe button, it means the world to us. And we'd love for you to spread the word of Second Legacy to your friends and family and let them know about the channel, because this channel is all about bringing our Second Amendment community together, getting people motivated to take action, and helping to steer that conversation so that if you do find yourself in a conversation with an anti-gunner, you're equipped with all the facts and knowledge that you need to have that debate, because that's what we need in this country is more debate, and we need to get things done, and we can do that. But we have to do that together, working together hand in hand, and we will accomplish what we need to get done. Thank you for watching today's episode, and we will talk to you guys very soon.